Welcome back again to Bald&Balding. I'm Rosaire. Thanks for hanging out with us a little bit. We are going back for our third and final trip to the Tidewater Comic Con out of Virginia Beach, where this week we are talking to very prolific independent author James Maxey. Chances are, if you've been to a Comic Con anywhere on the East Coast in the last 5 or 10 years, you've seen James there. And if you're an independent author yourself and you want to pick up some good tips, James has got some gems in store for you. So please stick around, check out his links at the back, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. We appreciate you. All right, we are here with author James Maxey. James, you want to give us a little bit about yourself and how you got started and this incredible collection of works that you have in front of you here?
All right. Well, this is actually my 20th anniversary as a published author. Uh, Back in 2003, my very first book came out. It was Nobody Gets the Girl, a superhero novel. It was published by Phobos Books, which was a new publishing house out of New York at the time. Jim Shooter over there in the aisle actually wrote the introduction to the book for the publishers. And at the time, it was a complete dud. It sold maybe 1,000 copies. And a few years after that, I thought my publishing career was over, but then I got lucky and I published Bitterwood through Solaris Books. I went on to write about 6 books for them that were sold through the standard channels, Barnes & Noble and Borders at the time was a big sales outlet for me. But I got started early enough that companies hadn't purchased my ebook rights, and so I started putting out my own ebook editions of my work, and that really got me into self-publishing. And about 10 years ago, I did my first Comic-Con, and it completely changed my whole approach to publishing. There's so many readers at these shows that I now try to do about 30 shows a year. I've been branching out to do music festivals and Renaissance festivals, in addition to just doing the more nerdy events. And it's just really works. If you want to be read, you can passively hope that people will find your book, or you can go out and actually stalk down your readers and put your book in their hands.
So you say you do about 30 shows a year. What's your range?
Oh, I go, since I can't really fly with uh, 300 or 400 books. I mean, it's a lot of weight, a lot of books that I'm carrying with me to these events. So I kind of am limited to what I can drive to in a single day from the middle of North Carolina. So I can go to New Orleans. I've done Chicago. I've done St. Louis. But once I get, like, there's shows in Texas I would love to do, but by the time I would add on 2 extra days of hotels driving there and 2 extra days coming back, it just seems like it'd be very difficult to make it work out financially.
Is this your full-time
Yeah,
job?
this is what I do. So I for years I had a second career at FedEx. After FedEx bought a shop that used to be called Kinko's. There used to be Kinko's everywhere. I think people still call them Kinko's, even though they haven't been at Kinko's in close to 20 years now. And at the time, I did desktop publishing. So I was the guy in there designing business cards and menus and brochures and funeral programs. So one advantage I had once I shifted to self-publishing was I already had Photoshop. I already knew about elements of design. And so I was able to design most of my own covers. I do a lot of my own art. Whenever I do hire artists to work for me, I have a very clear vision of what I think is going to work. And doing the shows is like instantaneous market research. If you put a book on the table that has a cover that no one is picking up or no one's even glancing at, you know that it's the wrong way to go. And in traditional publishing, if you had a bad cover, you were stuck with it for the life of that book. Whereas if I put out a cover that's a dud, then 6 months later, I can just change it out. I've been through a lot of covers on my Great Shadow series here, the Dragon Apocalypse. The big omnibus collection was a hit right out of the start, but the individual books used to have dragons on them. And I met this artist and I changed it to the women who were in the books, and it's really impacted the sales. They've done much better. It's a very strong female leads in these books, and so having the women on the covers helps me hit that target audience of having women buy the books and appreciate it.
How many books have you written?
So somewhere in the neighborhood of 25. It gets very fuzzy for me. I have things like my short story collections that I sometimes count as books I've written, and other times I don't. My big books here are omnibuses that collect, other novels. So all total, I've got about 25 books on the table, but I've also got works that I've written and haven't put out yet. So it's uh,
You also have some things here. You're getting kind of into the publisher realm a little bit, aren't
yeah, I do the kids' books here. Word Balloon Books is my wife and I are soliciting stories for readers in the 8 to 12-year-old range. We're just looking for good, solid storytelling, but kid-friendly. So we don't want problems solved by violence. We don't want cursing or adult content. We're just looking for action adventure stories, hopefully with some sort of good moral to them. At the very least, make it funny. So we have plenty of stories that are like 500 words, a joke set up, and a punchline, and it's perfectly functional, good writing.
So when you go to a lot of shows, then what's a commonality you see at shows? Because I mean, most people who come to a Comic-Con, they read fantasy, right? So you're kind of in there with that.
So I would say that actually most people who come to Comic Cons don't read at all. That I think that is a truth in the general public, that the number of people who actually sit around and pick up novels and read them is a pretty small proportion of the population. And even at here, the number of times I ask, "Hey, what do you like to read?" and they like, "Oh, I don't read," is very high. That said, some big shows like GalaxyCon in Raleigh, have 60,000 people coming through the door. So if one person in 100 is potentially interested in my book, that's still a very large pool of potential readers that I can connect with. And I do find an interesting counter programming. You mentioned fantasy. So here, in theory, the focus of Comic-Con should be superheroes. And yet when I do Comic-Cons, I sell very few superhero novels, and I sell tons of dragon stuff, and my cryptid book does well. If I do outdoor events, like the music festival or even the Renaissance Festival, the dragons still sell, but it's superheroes that will fly out. So there's a weird little bit of counter program. I guess there's so much saturation of superhero material in here that it's just one more signal in the noise.
Do you do anything with I was gonna say books on tape. We just cut that
Yeah,
out.
audiobooks. Yeah,
Do you do
yeah,
anything with audiobooks?
Yeah. So my Dragon Apocalypse books and my Bitterwood books are on Audible. The superhero series with Nobody Gets the Girl is on Audible. My Wizard of Oz novel, Bad Wizard, is available. I intend next year to be getting back into releasing a lot of audiobooks. Audio used to be one of my major revenue streams before COVID, and then I saw it really fall off. Like the second they started shutting things down and people weren't commuting and listening to audiobooks, and they weren't going to the gym and listening to audiobooks, I was just seeing the sales drop. And I'm seeing them come back up a little bit now. So I really just need to get out some new releases. One of the downsides of my con heavy strategy is I quit my day job in 2018 to do this more or less full time, and then 2020 it was just like I'd already paid out like close to $6,000 for table fees And by January of that year, and February, I was hearing little rumors of, oh, there's a pandemic coming. And then in March, I was actually driving home from a con in Ohio, and with another author, and we stopped at a Walmart, a 24-hour Walmart that was shutting down at 9 p.m. And there were like these crazy panic buying lines. And coming home, I was going into like pulling off the highway to get to a gas station, and the gas station was be closed because of the pandemic. And so I was like, man, am I going to be able to get home? Is this for real? It was definitely a big change.
It affected the cons too. When the first few, when they started back up again, were pretty thinly attended.
Definitely now we're getting back into the big crowd. So there was a rebound effect where in 2021 people still had money in their pockets and they hadn't spent for over a year, and when they came back they were just like buying anything you had on the table if you were one of the people who were already coming back onto the con circuit. I feel like now it's starting to normalize again. But fortunately, in the intervening time, I've added many more books. I've added a lot more buttons to my thing, so I just have more product to sell now than I did. So hopefully, I didn't completely waste the 2 years I was off the road.
James, where can people find you?
So you can find me on my website, which is just jamesmaxey.net. I see you pointing down to my banner, so you've got that. It's occasionally updated. My newest book isn't yet on there, but I'll get around to it. But before July, I'll get some updates on it. For me, it's the fact that I put my years of design work on the button boards, and selling buttons is kind of like ESP because you find out what people are really interested in. So because my cryptid buttons sell really well, the Mothman and the Sasquatch, I knew when I went in and wrote my cryptid book that I was going to have an eager audience for it, and it's already my top selling book at every show I've done since I've released it. So,
All right, James Maxey, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
all right, appreciate it.